This is Lauren from Walking Through Fire, and today we have Dana Humphrey. And the idea behind this podcast is simply to hear people's stories and to see if they resonate with us, because a lot of times, we don't do enough listening. And I think it's important, especially during this time that we're currently in, to listen to other people's stories and take what they say, because it may help us in overcoming some of the obstacles we are going through. Now, I did a little research on Dana, and she's got some great vibes going on here. Okay. She is like, you know, teaching us a lot of different things. And I think they're all important stuff. So I want Dana to introduce herself.
Okay, great. Thanks, Lauren. So I'm so excited to be here on Walk Through Fire. I'm an earth element, but I love fire. And I am a professor. I'm a life coach. I'm a PR expert. I'm also known as the pet lady. I do TV segments about tips and tricks for pet owners. I'm a cat mama. I have two kitties named Chance and Sassy. And
Is
my
that
older
named after
sister.
Homeward Bound?
They came with their names, and yes,
Oh, okay. All
yes,
right. Okay.
they did.
All right.
They were named after them for sure.
Okay. All right. So you're from New York City.
I live in New York. Yep.
Baruch College.
That's right.
Is that where you're a professor?
Yes.
Okay. So let's start off with a couple things here. Number one, the first thing I noticed was you're a queer woman in New York City.
Yes.
How is that right now?
Well, it's great. It's great to be queer right now. It's like time for it. I don't know. Somehow it's our moment.
We're in style again.
Yeah, we're suddenly in style. That feels good. I don't know if it makes it. I think coming out now makes it a lot easier. I came out a couple years ago and still had my own internal kind of battle with that, but I think that the world is becoming more accepting for sure, and especially with this new presidency and some of the moves they're making. So I'm excited about that.
Okay, now you said you had some internal issues before, and I'm sure that, a lot of people that are going to listen, are in the LGBT community, and we know that they have a high rate of suicide, and there's a lot that goes on with people coming out and families accepting them. And a lot of people from all over, straight, gay, whatever the situation is, have a problem loving themselves. I think that's one of the big things. I own or run CRPS amputee warriors. So I deal with a lot of people who are sick and who are amputees. And one of the things that they tell me is, I don't love myself anymore. Yeah. I don't feel whole. I don't feel like I'm the person I once was. Now, you have a whole thing about this, and I want you to kind of give me an idea of how you came onto this and how you found this way of taking your past, which we're going to hear about, and projecting it into such positivity.
You're making me think about a friend of mine who is with Hole in One Animal Rescue. As the pet lady, when I do a lot of TV segments, I bring on shelter animals, and the people who run that is an amputee, and he was telling me about how when you're missing a limb, then like it's even this new concept of wholeness, and like what am I and who am I, and like what am I? My arm? If I don't have my arm, am I still myself? And like, what does that mean? But back to your question. Yeah, I think loving ourselves is like part of the reason we're here, is like remembering to come back to love, and remembering that that's like really why we're on this planet. And I think that's really where we came from. And when we are things that are less than popular, then there can be a struggle. I would say that I've known I'm queer my whole life, but I was only brave enough to really come out when I had a girlfriend. And for me, coming out to my mom and my parents, I thought was going to be really, really hard. And they were super accepting, which I was shocked about.
So and the fear was what was holding you back.
It was my own fear. Yeah, it had nothing to do with them, right? My mom actually, I think, was like, fine already. Like, gosh, like what's taking so long? Yeah, like what? Like, yeah, okay. and sometimes
We knew, did you know?
yeah, like, and I could tell her a recipe and she'll be like, wow, so shocked. But like somehow this was like super casual to her. Meanwhile, some of my friends who I thought were like really good friends of mine took it personal, got offended. There's like some weirdness that happened of, I had one friend who reacted like, you told me you weren't a lesbian. I was like, whoa, I don't even know what you're talking about. Like,
and then you see it kind of coming out, and all these different things that happen to us. It helps us to kind of, I always say, find our tribe and the people who
right.
are going to help build that happiness. I had somebody contact me and say, I never thought in my life it would be so hard to be happy. And I kind of thought about that, and I was like, well, that's sad, because you should wake up and feel some sense of happiness every day. And he was just like, it's just so hard to be happy. I didn't expect this when we were younger. And I was like, I don't know that it's not happiness. I don't think we expect everything that comes along with, going from 12 to 40.
Sure. I mean, I'm at a point in my life where I do wake up every morning, like literally jumping out of bed, happy song in my head, ready to go. And yeah, it has taken a lot of work, but it's also like, a lot of the things that we think make us happy, I interpret perhaps as like self-sabotage. And so the less of that stuff I do, the more naturally kind of happy that I am with myself, because I'm accepting more of myself every day.
And what would you
Um,
say what are some examples of the things you considering self-sabotage?
I like, the easiest one is alcohol, right? Like
Okay.
when I was like in my 20s, like I was like running around drinking alcohol as like a way to maybe not feel, be numbingly chill and not really experience, not really have to feel how I felt. Um, and now it's like I choose to feel all the feelings and all the range of it. It's like a different strategy. Like alcohol is like, I don't want to feel it. Don't let me feel it. And now my strategy is like, yeah, bring it on. I want to feel all of it. And then I'll take care of myself after. I'll take a bath, I'll dance, I'll move it after, like I'll feel it and I'll be able to move it, versus just like, I don't even want to look at it. And that's where suffering lives, is not accepting, right?
And that is correct, because I was talking to somebody else who is an actress, and she just did a movie, and we kind of went back and forth, dealing with, I think all pain is the same, whether it's physical, it's mental, it's all pain. And that's why I wanted the show to focus on everything. It's not just one thing, because pain is pain. And we always say, you need like a toolbox when you're in pain of how
Yeah.
of stuff you pull out. And somebody yesterday said, I have a box of like pictures that I look at of, like
Mm,
these great memories. And that, and I think we need to have an arsenal, whether it's emotional pain, physical pain, that we can pull out, that we can use. And
totally.
what do you put in that arsenal? How did you go? Because I know you had mentioned you had issues, relationship issues with narcissists, and we know how that can be just draining.
I want to show you something that I have here on my phone. I have I made a folder of images that make me happy. So if
So
I need a little
you have a
boost,
toolbox right there.
I haven't thought about it like that, but I have on here like massages, hot tea, dance
An
parade. I have
arsenal of good
yeah,
things.
and it's right here on my phone, and it's like there's chocolate ice cream on here, just yeah, all the stuff. Um, Yeah, I don't have it in a physical box, but I have it handy on my phone.
But it's
And
an imagery.
yeah, sure. And I also have, yeah, I have a lot of tools. I have a lot of tools. And I've been doing this work on loving myself and healing myself for a long time. But yeah, I mean, really, I guess part of the impetus to that was my last relationship, my last breakup. While I was in that relationship, I had a moment where I was at a trade show for work that was very stressful, and my grandmother died, and then I was realizing for the first time that I was probably attracted to women, like really. And
So a lot going on.
there was, yeah, it was like it was, yeah, like compounded, right? And I just woke up one morning during that time. It was like a couple days, and I was like in Florida and then California and then Charleston, like in a week. I woke up with like the most severe back pain of my life. And I pushed through it. I pushed through it. And um, really, that back pain has been the biggest gift to help me realize how I need to live and what is pain, and notice the emotional pain that I was carrying for myself and for other people. And now, you know, I'm I'm like, everything I do is around how I can feel best in my body. You know, like I don't eat gluten because I don't want the inflammation, because I don't want the back pain. I go to Bikram yoga because I want the heat, because I want to soothe my bones and like have my ligaments juiced. Um,
And I heard that you love heat.
yes,
And you
I'm
know
a
what? A
heat
lot of
slut.
people, they say that they love yoga, or they love hot yoga, and it's like a way of cleansing their soul. When you're even people who work out, they say when you're sweating like that, you feel almost like you're cleansing your soul, and you're like almost a rebirth. And I think that these little things help us to focus on ourselves, and that's people said it's selfish. It's not selfish, because if you can't focus on yourself and your own health, you can't focus on anything else. You can't have a healthy relationship. You can't do anything healthy. So that back pain for you was kind of that mental trigger that, all right, it's time to make a change here.
Oh yeah,
I'm actually getting sick from this stress that I'm living in.
yeah. I had like a month period before of just doing nothing. I literally was just laying on the couch, which like I'm like a super like I was a super type A, highly active, like do a lot of things kind of person. Like me sitting around on the couch, like that's never happens.
So you're
Like
out of character. Okay.
yeah, like there was a whole month where that was all I did was lay on the couch, like, okay,
And
we're
thinking back, do you think it was a form of depression? Were you depressed? Was it just you were overwhelmed?
um no, I had a lot. There was so much that I learned during that time. I mean, and everything was like I went to go to the acupuncturist, and then like there was a free pile of books, and in the top of the free pile of books was like Healing Back Pain by Dr. John Sarno. I just started reading.
Serendipitous.
I started reading it, and I was like, and my friend comes back in, he's like, oh, that's our free pile of books, and I'm like, yeah, I need this book. And that was really my introduction
I'm
to.
taking that one with me. That one's
I was
important.
like, great, because this is what I need. My cat is
That's okay.
trying to join us here. So, but that book taught me that pain is emotional and spiritual, and that was the beginning. That session or whatever of like just getting that book. I ended up taking the subway the wrong way for like an hour because I was so
you got
engrossed.
invested into the book.
Yeah. And basically it was like, you need to start living your life again, because that's what you have to do. And so literally the next day I woke up and I went for a bike ride, and that was like the beginning. That was like the beginning of my healing. Really, it was like just getting out of my head of thinking like, oh, poor me, my back hurts, like meh, and being like, okay, I need to do something about this, and it's probably emotional pain. This totally resonates with me. I'm going to continue living my life because it's not physical. It's actually, while I can actually feel it and it hurts, it's not physical, and stopping all my physical stuff is going to just make me more depressed.
I like to tell people that the mind quits long before the body, and the mind is always there saying you can't do it. You're in pain, rest. Your leg hurts, rest. And a lot of times, when people are resting, you're kind of getting depressed. You need to be active. You need to keep your mind going. And one of the things that I saw that you had written is that you are never too old to accomplish a new goal and to accomplish a new dream. And even, and I think this will resonate with a lot of people who watch this. even though you may not be whole and things may have changed in your life, that does not mean life stops. So you went on this bike ride and you decided to change your whole life. How'd you do that? What are the steps that you've taken?
So basically I started I stopped feeling sorry for myself and I started living my life again. And I added Bikram yoga and I stopped eating gluten. So those are some physical things that I did that I do think help. And, Bikram's called a miracle practice. And I truly believe, like, I can do every position now. And at that day, when I went into the yoga room, like there's
You were
certain,
like, oh boy.
I was laughing. I'm like, yeah, right. You want me to do what with my arms? Like flip them around upside down? Like absolute, I'm never going to be able to do that. Right. And then like, here I am, like, I can for sure do every pose. It's a practice and I'm going to continue practicing. And there's no, it's not like I've arrived or something. Like I'm going to keep pursuing it because.
But the first step was actually going and attending and realizing it's hard, but it gets easier. And this is what people need to, starting is the hardest part. And slowly it gets easier and slowly you feel yourself changing.
Yes, exactly. And something that happens in yoga is like a connection between your heart, like your heart and there's one thing that happens is like a marriage between your heart and your lungs, but there's also like a connection between yourself and your higher self. And I think just strengthening that connection is also part of our life's work and our life's journey, and at least part of mine. And getting in touch with my higher self every single day absolutely, I think, helps me.
And people are probably not going to understand what that means. So by higher self, what do you mean? They're going to think that you're praying. What do you mean by your higher self? For people who don't know anything about yoga.
Sure. Yeah, it's kind of praying.
I got you stumped now. I got you stumped.
So,
say?
All right. So the only way I can say this is my story. So one night I was on the dance. I love to dance. And that is also, movement is really like important to me. And when I dance, it's not like I'm doing the salsa or something. I'm just like, like
if my
body hurts, I'm like going there and digging into it and trying to work it out. It's almost like sensual yoga in my dancing, but dancing is where I really kind of like can connect. And I was on the dance floor one night and I saw my angel version of myself. And like, she literally looks like a Victoria's Secret model angel.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, and I like saw her and I was like, okay. And so since that night, I've been able to visualize that and see my higher self in her sometimes. And sometimes when I'm in yoga, I can see the higher self of other people in the class also.
Now people are going to think you're hallucinating, but
yeah, I know this is like, we're getting a little.
I want people to understand that, you may not be walking around seeing your higher self, but kind of think of it as the person you aspire to be, who the better part of you, the better. Every day you should wake up and want to see a better version of yourself through something. And, there's people who, you talk about, being the good girl, being a people pleaser, and then being a rebel, and people go through all these different phases of growth. And it appears you have gone through these different phases of growth.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, I was raised by narcissistic codependent parents, and I'm definitely I don't know what the right word is. I've had a long journey of like realizing that, of like really learning to understand, like, what does that even mean? And really going back to my last breakup, my last partner was a covert narcissist. And so I spent months and months and months consuming all kinds of information about what is narcissism, what does it look like? And then eventually I had to get to that point of almost like the U-turn going deep down into this darkness of what's narcissism, and then
Meanwhile,
eventually,
you probably saw these red flags as you were going through
oh
this.
yeah,
Oh,
for
you knew there
sure.
was something wrong.
For sure, but it kind of like had it all, everything was clicking, and I was like, yes, like I want this content, and I'm, watching videos and reading books. And then eventually I had to be like, okay, so that's great, and I can blame this person all day long, but like, what's in it about me
Where'd
that
it come from?
made this, you know, made this possible? Like, it takes two to tango. And so then I started learning about the codependency piece of it. It's like, okay, I can blame all I want, and I can blame my parents all I want, but I'm still, a grown woman and living in this world. And so I've, taken responsibility for my own codependency, and really, it's something I think about every day, and I think about how to be a better version of myself, and how to be that higher version of myself, and how to take responsibility for everything that I do, so that there's no room for blaming anybody or letting any toxic personality into my space when I'm in a pity mode, which is, I think, it all kind of goes together. It's all kind of like this big meatball that kind of goes together. Like, the pain helps the self-care, and the self-care helps
Big
realizing
snowball effect.
that you need something better. And then
Yes.
understanding why you're with the people that you're with, and uncovering what does that look like in your family unit, and all these things.
Now, do you think that your parents and the way their narcissism, do you think that kind of directed you into picking someone who had those same qualities? It was
Oh
something
yeah.
you were used to, so you were attracted to it?
Yeah, it's called the human magnet
Attracted to
syndrome.
pain? There we go. Okay, so the human magnet, tell me.
Okay, so I believe it's like, let's say if there's like a scale of narcissism and codependency, let's say I'm like a -1 codependent, like, and zero's like whole. We want to be 0, right? But let's say I'm -1 codependency based on my family unit or whatever, my upbringing, and the narcissist is like a +1. So together we are like literally, it's like literally a magnet. We're literally like drawn to each other.
That makes sense.
And it feels good. It feels whole.
Why? Why does it feel good? What about it feels, even though you know in your mind they're red flags? Because I have a sister who, I mean, no matter who she seems to pick, it's almost like it's the same person in a different body, a different shell.
Yeah.
And I always think, what is drawing her to this person? So what do you think? I mean, I know with the +1, it's a perfect match, but is it, are we thriving for pain? Are we looking for that? Do we feel like we need to sabotage and hurt ourselves?
I think I think you can also be like a -5 and a +5. Like what you just said about your sister, that's been me. Okay. And I think every single relationship I've had, I've gotten deeper into it. So like maybe when I was 20, my boyfriend at the time, him and I were like a -1. I think this past relationship was like a -5. Like it just kept getting.
How high does it go? How high does it go?
Well, the person who came up with this theory says it's about, goes to 5. That's the most. But and it's Dr. Ross Rosenberg. But yeah, it's like that's what I was finally aware to. Like every partner I've ever had is like the same person. They look very different. They might be different sexes,
it's the same,
but they're the same person. Like what's happening? What's the common denominator here? Me. So who needs to change? I do. So until I had that awareness and I could say, okay, I need to go from a -5 or wherever I'm at to 0 to wholeness, then you're always going to be looking outside yourself to fill that extra space. And so until you cultivate that, it's going to be the same people.
So I don't know if you're in a relationship now, but in your relationships now, you're not. Okay. So I don't know if you've dated after this next relationship, but have you been able to, after reflecting on yourself and going through this whole transition, have you been able to find that wholeness? Or closer towards the negatives?
Well, so what I can say is that after the breakup, I had a whole year of just like celibacy and just like, okay,
Just, I gotta take a break. I gotta back up.
you know, yeah, I can't just keep going down this hamster
Yep.
wheel of nonsense. And then since then, I have dated a few people that were narcissistic, and but I basically, I pat myself on the back that it's like I was able to be aware of it a lot sooner.
Okay, so you're
So
self-aware
I
and
was
are able to jump ship a lot earlier than you would have before.
at first I was really discouraged. Like, you know, how is this possibly happening again? Like I learned so much, but you have to practice it. And so I would say like probably there's been like 3. And so the first
Okay.
one was like 3 months. And then I had to
Oh
be
boy.
like, okay, wow, 3 months, but at least it wasn't 2 years. Okay. So I was like, okay, great. And then the next one was like 2 weeks.
So
And
we're
again,
getting closer to this is not working much faster.
yeah, like awareness much faster. And then the most recent one was like 1 day. And I'm like, yes, okay, I am becoming better at spotting them. And for someone who's not codependent, they might be watching this thinking like, wow, like, is there really that many narcissists in the world? Like, there's really
Yes.
not. Well, there's
Yes.
not that. I think it's like 5% of the population. Like, it's not a huge amount, but for someone like me, like, until it's like fully not there anymore, I'm going to keep attracting them. So I'm going to have a higher ratio of like,
you're going to find
knowing
the entire 4.9% of
yeah,
narcissists are coming to your house.
right.
But you have become more self-aware, and that's
Oh, yeah.
a lot of what this show is about, becoming self-aware. And not so much, I feel like a lot of people say, I'm 30 and I don't have kids yet and I'm not married, and we take so much of what other people's lives are and we let them portray onto us what it should be. Oh my God, I'm 40, I don't have kids, da, 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 da. And I feel like I believe that you touch on this, not taking what other people think of you to heart, because they're not living the same lives. So what do you think of that?
I guess like at my core, like I do believe like I am a queer person. Like I believe in doing things my own way, and I think that's, it's hard for me to wonder. It's challenging for me to wonder if it's true like that for everybody. But I don't know. I guess I believe at some level it is. But yeah, I mean, I pride myself on doing things differently, but I mean, sure, I have moments where I want to be, I judge myself, or I think, I don't know, like what are you wearing today? Like, this kind of like little nasty conversation inside my head, but I can say it's getting better, and it's been getting better for a long time. And
because you're aware of it now, so
yeah,
you're able to put a stop
I'm
to
able
it.
to watch it and not get sucked into it. I just watch, and I think that's part of consciousness and awareness, is like watching the voice, not being it.
I always say when you become a little more self-aware, and after, I mean, I would have said I was definitely a narcissist before my amputation, and then it happened, and it was so humbling. It was such a humbling experience that things that like I would have never realized about myself, I did. And you know what? I didn't like going back. I didn't like who I was. I didn't like, and I never thought I'd say that, because you never want to say that. I don't like who I am. But I like who I became after losing a part of myself, because I learned to be so grateful and so appreciative of what I get, even just from this, even conversations with random people. You need to appreciate their stories, and it gives you a sense of being very humble. It humbles you. I remember one time I just, when I had 2 legs, I'd run into the bathroom, use the handicap bathroom, and not care a second about whether there was a handicapped person in there. That's just who I was. I got things to do. And now, having been in that position, I'm like, oh my God, I'll park a mile away to make sure somebody has that spot. I'll make sure. I never realized that a wheelchair needs to fit into a handicap. It was something I took for granted. And I feel like, shame on me that I wasn't more aware. But now, hindsight, I have turned into such a better version of myself relationship wise, just as a human. So I think being self-aware and realizing your character flaws and
Mhm.
actually saying, you know what, yeah, I'm not perfect. I screw up. I haven't been great in relationships. I've done terrible things, but I've changed. People say you can't change, but you really can if you
Oh yeah.
focus on it.
Oh yeah. Yeah, and that's where the connection is. That's where the juice is, right? Is in the vulnerability
That's
of
the
being
juice, the
able to
vulnerable
say,
saying.
like, yeah, I fucked up, and I'm okay, and I accept myself for that. And probably you can too. It's like that first step of, first we have to accept it for ourselves and forgive ourselves or whatever, so we can like easily talk about it or share it, and then that's where we connect with people. That's where the intimacy is.
And people will say, well, how do you know you've changed? And I always use, past relationships. I say, when you can look at somebody now and say, I genuinely, from your heart, I really, at one time I remember being like, I don't give a shit what happens to these people. And now it's like, why would you wish bad on somebody else? So you kind of know you're changing when you can look at somebody and say, I really genuinely wish nothing but the best for them. And I think it takes a while. Like you said, you gotta really learn yourself and learn that, what, you're not perfect. And say, yeah, I learned to say I'm sorry, I think is another big one, which was, I'm never saying I'm sorry to anybody. And I learned, to apologize very quickly because it makes a big difference, and so going through your stuff and reading about how you said you need to fall in love with yourself.
Yeah.
I can resonate with that. What does that mean to you?
um the big thing for me is like actually listening to what I want versus just like, okay, it's Friday, we have all these things to do and we have to do them, and being a drill sergeant to myself,
To,
right?
oh,
And because in some level that's abuse. It's like just making me do the things that I don't want to do. And so really listening to my body, listening to what I need. It's like, I don't know, in a lot of ways I follow like Buddhist principles. It's like, if you're hungry, eat; if you're tired, sleep; if you're thirsty, drink. And it's like, it sounds simple, but it's
but
like,
it's not.
it's not that easy. It's like being able, and like, if you like, I've never been a napping person, but I try to give myself a little bit more wiggle room. It's like, if I feel like taking a nap, I'll let myself close my eyes for half an hour or whatever, and put a little,
Without feeling bad about it now, where you probably
because that's
before
what I
felt terrible. I
need.
got stuff to do. I gotta go. And you
Right.
were rushing yourself.
Right. And now I just actually tune in and listen, like, okay, I for whatever, doesn't really matter why, like, this monkey minds, it's like, why, you got plenty of sleep, you're it's gonna be fine.
You
And
should
it's
be
like,
fine.
right. And it's like, no, for whatever reason, it's not fine. I don't know why, and it doesn't really matter. I'm just gonna close my eyes for like half an hour and then come back to the thing refreshed, and who knows why I had to take that nap. So I didn't do the wrong thing at the wrong moment, and whatever. But I think I want to tell you a little story about my beginning of my healing, before
Go
kind of all this
ahead.
stuff
Go
happened.
ahead.
I went to well, I was visiting a local bar, and the bartender recommended a silent meditation to me. And so I ended up doing this silent meditation for 7 days, up in Connecticut. And while I was there, it was like a week of silent meditation. We weren't we had really amazing like vegetarian meals and everything. And one night, I think it was like a full moon or something, or New Year's or something, we had cookies. And I love cookies. And we all were supposed to have one cookie. And this one guy like took a bunch of cookies, and I was totally judging him. I was like, what? I was like silent,
Silently. You were
yeah, we're
silently
all
judging.
silent. And I'm sitting there like, what? Who's this guy think he is taking all the cookie, like, whatever, 2 cookies, like, who knows even how
You
many
were
it was.
real hungry. You were getting upset
Right.
about the
But I was
cookies.
like, I want more cookies. Like, who's he thinking he gets more cookies? And then from that moment on, everything he did annoyed me. I was like, oh, look at him stomping around, stomper walker, and that was my biggest lesson from that experience, was that thing about judgment, and basically the things that I judge in other people are things that I don't love about myself. And like,
Always the
I'm the
case.
cookie monster, okay? Like now I
Because
can
you wanted
declare
those
it,
cookies. You were just mad he did it.
right? Because yeah, it's like being able to love that part of myself that is the cookie monster, wants the cookies, could eat the extra cookies, maybe
But
stop
wasn't
crying
brave
sometimes.
enough to take the cookies.
Right, right,
So it
exactly,
all kind of goes back to that fear of
right.
just stepping out. But it seems, I mean, from an outer perspective, that your journey has made you live life a little bit more relaxed. You're not as
Oh,
hard on yourself.
oh
You
yeah.
give yourself the time to reflect, be aware, and really take self-care, a lot of self-love and self-care, which I think anywhere in any situation you're in, divorce, anything that you're going
Yeah,
through, job loss, you need that self-care because you don't heal otherwise.
yeah,
You need to reflect on yourself because otherwise you can't be a good person. You can't be a better person. And
yeah.
you have a lot going on. Okay. You first of all, DanaHumphrey.com is her website. And on her website, she offers courses that she runs. And I check them out. There's one that's called Me, Mine, and Moon.
Yeah.
A really, really cool sounding programs, which I want you to talk about. And I also want you to tell me about what the pet lady is. Tell me who's the pet lady. So you pick which way you want to go first.
All right. Um, okay, this is part of my I'm kind of transitioning out of one thing and into the other. So last year, in March, I headed down to go to Guatemala for a 10-day retreat, and I ended up living there for 3 months and getting
That's longer than 10 days.
stuck in paradise.
Okay.
And while I was there, I was doing public relations for pet product companies. That's my PR company, and I'm also the pet lady. Um, and while I was there, I basically made a commitment to myself that I'm not going to spend my life and my life force energy helping make other people a lot of money and a lot of businesses a lot of money. That's just not what I want to. That's not why I'm here. And so I shaved my head. I used to
I
have
love
long
it.
brown hair.
We all go through that. I think it's like the rebirth, off of
Yeah,
the hair. Yeah, rebirth.
yeah. And I had 3 braids. It was like getting rid of the past, the present, and the future. And I donated the braid for the future, and I burned the one of the past. And honestly, letting go. I mean, that hair was part of like
Part of you.
all this stuff that I went through, and just getting rid of that. I mean, it was a huge release. Um, and I'm still, I'm right now, I'm kind of in the middle of doing everything all at once. But really my goal is to have an exit strategy with the PR business and the pet lady, and let that side of things go and really focus on the life coaching, and do 100% light work,
Because
and that,
that's your purpose. You found your purpose through this whole thing. And you're going to, again, this is more towards your happiness. You're going to move to the
yeah,
spot that makes you happier. You don't
yeah,
want to spend your life helping others make profit when you can help others do
help
better in
others,
life.
yeah, live their best lives.
All
Exactly.
right. So let's focus away from, we'll move from pet lady. Tell me about the program that you are planning on and already have up and running on your website. What's
Yeah.
that going to be about?
Yeah, so basically, I love to work with codependents, helping them overcome their codependency, realize how that shows up in all the different parts of their lives, from being a seeker to being a people pleaser, to all of these little nuances that it shows up as. Codependency is not like a sexy thing that people really say, like, "Oh, that's me," right? But it's my mission is to really help people see that part of themselves, love that part of themselves, and move through it. And yeah, I have a 1 month program, a 3 month program, and a 6 month program where we do a lot of ritual work, energy healing, listening, really being seen and heard. Like, I'm here to like listen and hear and see you. And I think that's a huge part of it, is being witnessed in some of our in our struggles. Just being witnessed in some of our struggles can help move it.
I think that that's a big, and I will keep saying it, listening is so, we're so busy talking over people that listening is such a problem. And if you sat next to somebody, even at the doctor's office, I've had some amazing conversations and you hear stories from people and you're like, wow, I would have never even imagined that that's what you were going through right now. So the listening part, and even through the podcast, like I said, meeting people and hearing their stories, it's even more humbling because you're like, wow, look at how far they've come. Look at what they've able to, look at how you were picking one thing and now are able to focus and say, you know what, I'm turning my life completely. And you're doing it consciously. You're
Oh
consciously
yeah.
making the decision to change who you are. And it's possible.
Yes.
It's very possible. And people say it's not, but it is. We're looking at it right now.
I mean, okay, so my family, it's my parents and my sister and I. I just saw them for a couple of days. We did Christmas in January. And we send out like the Humphrey family poem, okay, where each person has a little section of the poem. I'm like the marketing person, so I do the MailChimp for the family poem.
Okay.
Usually it involves some F-bombs between my dad and I, but this year, it was pretty peaceful. But anyway, I was looking
poetry. I like it. Good.
Here, I was looking at our poem from last year, and there was a picture of the four of us, and I literally did like a quadruple take. Like I was looking at a picture of myself, and I was like, "Who is that?" Like, I this is a real thing. Like I can't even. I don't know how to even better explain it. Like I have changed so much. I don't even recognize myself from a year ago.
Well, you know what? I'm glad that you said that because you know what? When I look at pictures and it's a picture of me with two legs, I look at it and I'm like, it feels like such a lifetime ago, but it was
Yeah.
only 2 years ago. And I almost look at the picture with disgust because you could almost feel who you were before. And it's kind of like, I'm so glad that I don't think and feel and act the way I did. Just, it seems so long ago, even though it's not, because you can truly change overnight. You go to bed and you change, so I don't think people realize how much growth can be done in 24 hours. It's true.
Oh yeah. Yeah. It usually doesn't happen that way, but it doesn't mean it can't. It absolutely can. Even just when you're talking about that, like I can feel it in my stomach. My stomach's like, ew, like,
right? Did you look at that picture of you and be like, who are you?
It's like the sellout version of me. And and that's also part of it is like releasing a lot of the lies that I've told myself, right? It's
so
like,
now you feel like you're more your authentic self. You are your authentic. You've come out of the closet. You've come out of that fear. You've come out of that, or you're coming out of that job that you were in, and you're moving more towards your purpose and your authentic who you are.
And that's where the relaxation is. It's like, I'm like, yeah, I'm sitting into my own seat that's always been there, but I've been busy like trying to be in this fancier, different seat that looks good. It's, rosy, but really my seat's back here chilling. And yeah, I'm excited for like how much more it can even be.
So with that said, how much more it can even be, what would you, to end the show off, what would you give as advice to people who are out there right now struggling, perhaps, I mean, you're going to have a lot of amputees, a lot of people who are suffering with different things. What do you say to those people? Even people that, are, I've had 4 suicides this month. People who feel like they don't want to do this. They don't feel like this is worth it. They're not happy. They're not enjoying life. What do you tell them? That was a lot. I know. I'm sorry.
I mean, part of my brain's like wanting to give you a quote because that's the easiest.
Give the quote too.
But I mean, really, it's like you gotta. You know what I think what helps is mirroring. Like really, if you ever do eye gazing is like looking at another person. They say to look in the person's left eye. So in mirroring, you just look in the mirror and you look at your own left eye, and you can do this for like 3 minutes. there's a lot of love exchange that you can give yourself just from doing a 3-minute mirroring thing of just like trying to look at your left eye. And it can get a little confusing. You're like,
you're looking at my right, I'm looking at your left. Let's go ahead. We're doing something right here. It's all wrong, but we're doing it.
I think that is a practice that will help. I think drinking more water, literally drinking more water, I think can help you flush out some of the nonsense. And for me, it's like doing the thing that you like. For me, it's dancing. Another thing that is important to me is like, I got a message many years ago is to turn my pain into beauty. And I interpret that I make art projects. It's not because I'm like, think I'm an amazing artist and whatever. I literally, like, I have the chakras on my door right here. They are bedazzled because I had a hard night where I didn't want to break into any substances, and I bedazzled the chakras. And I have another.
You bedazzled yourself to the calmness.
Yeah, I mean, it's just like
going back to you going into that toolbox of happiness, and so that seems to be the answer. We all need to find our authentic, self. And by doing that, what makes you truly happy? We all know what doesn't make us happy. I give myself pep talks in the mirror. If I feel that pity party coming on, I'm like, so far you've survived 100% of what you've been going through. You're going to get through this day.
Something, what I heard a friend say recently that I thought was really helpful. It's like making the impossible choice when you think it's impossible. That's what you have to do. That's what you have to do. When, the moment that self-pity strikes, you have to like literally stop and do the impossible and tell yourself of, whatever you'd have to tell yourself to make it be like, you're an amazing superhero that you just did the impossible by not getting.
We don't like that. We don't like that as people, that uncomfortable feeling. But I tell people all the time, the best things come when you're not comfortable. Growth comes when you are at the most uncomfortable.
It's like, okay, something happens and you start feeling shitty, you start feeling bad. We all know what our go-tos are, right? It could be the cookies, it could be the substances.
We know it's cookies for you,
right? Whatever it is, we know what those bad roads are. If you can stop yourself before you get down that road, I mean, that's it. And just
being self-aware.
And that shift gives you the muscle to be strong for the next time. Because now you have a history and a pattern and an example for yourself of how you can be stronger than your own pity. And that's it.
I love that. And for people who want to get in touch with you, how do they get in touch with you?
Pretty much you can go to danahumphrey.com. You can send me an email. I'm pretty sure my cell phone number's on there. I'm on all the things. I'm on Instagram and Twitter and Facebook, and I check them all very regularly at Dana K. Humphrey. Please send me a message. I'd love to connect with you. Let me know you heard us on Walk Through Fire, and would love to connect.
All right. Well, I can't thank you enough for coming on. It has been great to meet you and to have this conversation with you. I'd love to have you on again, and I wish you nothing but luck.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Have a good night.
All right. Bye.
Bye-bye.